Welcome to the Thrive and Shine podcast on behalf of One Day, Day One Coaching. We're here to talk to real people about real issues in health and fitness and provide enough value that you can either help yourselves or others live healthier and happier lives. Let's get into the episode. So welcome to episode 3 of the Thrive and Shine podcast. As you will see, I've got a special guest on today. Richard, unfortunately, can't be with us. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's going on, people? My name's Prem. I'm part of the Stamina Club. I'm excited to chat with Alkesh today about today's topic.
Nice, Prem. And give us a little bit of a background into yourself in terms of your journey within health and fitness so that people can get a bit of a feel for it.
Sure. So I'm 26. I've just become a chartered accountant. I've done the university route. And whilst at university, I got into endurance sports with my mate. We did our first half marathon, which was Hampton Court Palace. And then honestly just got the bug from there. So went from doing the first half marathon and then did like a few other half marathons in Europe, London Marathon, and then started the triathlon journey. Started from London Olympic Tri and worked my way up to an Ironman. And I'm now currently working on a swimming project, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. But yeah, basically loving the physical endurance. But the main reason I do it is for keeping my body healthy, but most importantly, keeping my mind healthy.
Nice. Love that, Prem. And we're obviously going to cover quite a bit today, but we should, just because if anyone does watch, they'll be like, how did these two manage to get onto the same space? So we are family, and as soon as I knew that Richard wasn't going to be on this week, I thought it'd be really great to hear from you for a couple of reasons. Actually, coming from a really big family, it's great that we share some experiences, whether it's the love of food. We obviously hang out and go out, but actually the love of sport was one that, me being so much older, as you can tell with my hairline, and you young guys coming through, it was fascinating to watch your journey. And obviously you're way ahead of where I was at your age, so that's why I thought it'd be really good to hear your perspective, because you're coming at it from a completely different angle and a demographic that actually Richard and I have touched upon in some of the stuff that we've done in the past. So let's get into today's episode then. So what this is really about is something interesting. I was, as you're researching, as you do, where you're looking for things that are going on, what are people saying, I stumbled across this statistic, which actually is not a new one. The report, which is a government-based report, which I'll share a link to, it's from 2022. But what it was suggesting at that stage is that for 16 and over, that there were around over 60% of people that were engaged in moderate to intense activity. Now, for me, that is confusing. And there's a contradiction there, because if we're saying the majority of people are involved in some sort of activity, but we also know that the majority of people are said to be overweight or living with obesity, how do those two things go together? And I thought it'd be interesting just for us to have a chat about it. Like, what do you see? What are your thoughts on that for a start?
Yeah, so it does seem to be a contradiction, and I think the best way I can sort of look at this question is look at myself and see what I do. I've got to be honest. Like I love sports, I love endurance, but I do also love to eat all of the different sort of foods there are. So I train hard so I can guilt-free eat what I want. Now that works for me. Like, I'm speaking to you having had a burger for lunch with 2 patties and like an American sliced cheese. So some may think I'm a hypocrite talking about this topic, but I train really hard. So I think people are it's about whether you're exerting enough energy outside of your day-to-day sort of routine to be burning off the calories that you are eating.
Yeah, interesting, because I've seen loads of stuff on social media, which I'm sure you have as well. You again are more prominent on social media. You're a great character and putting yourself out there, but you do see people that have this, again, like almost like a conflicting argument. Some people say the energy in, energy out debate is old and it's more nuanced than that, and yet there's still quite a large population of people who say just stick to that and it will help you in the long run. So I guess my question to you is, why do you think people choose activity over focus on nutrition? So what I mean by that is, clearly people are getting out there and doing stuff, but maybe it's not having the effect because they're not concentrating on nutrition. So why do people find it a balance? You seem to be able to do it because you do so much activity that you can then eat X, Y, and Z, but seemingly other people don't and they can't. Why do you think that is, do you reckon?
So, yeah, I think for the wider public, the issue that people may be finding is that they're going to the gym and that makes them maybe feel okay. I've ticked off my sort of physical well-being for the day, and the only caveat to bear in mind is that doesn't then therefore mean you can absolutely like go to town in the kitchen and not have any sort of moderation with what you are fueling, because I think, as most personal trainers will tell you in the gym, or fitness influencers on YouTube, they all talk about diet and how important the diet is in helping reach whatever physical goal you're going for, whether it's going to be to cut, which is like to reduce your body fat, or whether it's to increase your muscle mass, and you're trying to bulk up. It is very important to be strict with your calories. So I think maybe the misunderstanding of how important it is, what is going on in the kitchen, and I think the lack of priority given to that could be the result of the sort of the study that's been shown. Like, despite people are going to the gym, there are still people's sizes are still increasing.
Yeah. For me, I think it's the easier one to do, and I could be generalizing. So you tell me what you think for what I say in a second. But yeah, if you're thinking, like, let's say we're talking about people that are from a non-sporting background, because again, I think I've covered this before. If you have a sporting background, I feel like you've got a bit of a head start. You kind of know what you should do or what to do. But if we're thinking about people that may not be in that kind of category, then I reckon it's easier just to put some trainers on and go out for a run than it is to consciously think, what am I supposed to be eating today in order to fuel my level of activity? And I think we may have even spoken about this in previous episodes, or I've definitely posted about it. I feel like it's the boring stuff. Like, people don't want to think about that. If I wake up today and haven't eaten a thing yet, so theoretically today I could make conscious choices and they could really help to fuel what I do. But instead, I'll eat what I want and I'll just go and do a run and be like, yeah, job done.
Yeah. No, I think that's an important point, man. And I think like, we can talk from our demographic, which is like the Indian Hindu community, and how many sort of overweight individuals there are with stuff like diabetes, with things like high cholesterol, like history of heart attacks, and general poorer health that can occur in the elder generation, and even in our generation, if they're not educated in the space of like nutrition. Because I think, like, from my own personal experience, like my dad, for example, previously would be on his feet and working through the day and stuff, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that his health was good, because doctors would actually say you've got high cholesterol or you've got borderline diabetes. He's not diabetic, but borderline diabetes. Now, given that he's on his feet all day, you would think that you'd be healthy, but what wasn't being addressed previously, when we were probably too young to advise, because that's what's now really great, is youngsters can now advise the older generation who may not be as educated in this space. But previously, he wouldn't have had much of a sort of regimental, or more of like wouldn't have had like a conscious thought about what he is putting into his body. However, things have changed now, because that is now happening, and as a consequence, not only is he getting trimmer, but he's really feeling like he's feeling healthier, and that's what the statistics show as well. You know, like he's not got diabetes yet, so it's stuff that we've prevented through the diet. So I think education's a real important thing, and having someone who's passionate and understands the subject to guide that community, or to guide those people who are coming to want to learn from someone who knows a lot, like yourself, maybe, is basically it's a worthwhile investment, I'd say.
I like that, and you've actually taken me into the next question really nicely, actually, because education for you, I'm interested as well, because you're much younger. So what did that look like for you? How did you do your learning? And then, a couple of questions in one, really. what strategies do you use? Because I think you have mentioned, you've teased everyone that you kind of live this life where you can train as hard as you do, which means you're allowed to, give yourself those, what people call indulgent treats. So really,
Yeah.
I'll be interested to know what your strategies are. How do you manage your day to day? But how did you learn that as well, is what I'm interested
Yeah.
in.
All right, so let's start from the sort of the start of my journey. I've not really gone through this story in ages, but I guess it's an important story to be able to share articulately, yeah, or to be able to articulate, because I hope that it can inspire others. So when I was like 13, I couldn't do a push up. My mum asked me to get down and do a push up, and I could not even do a bloody push up. So I realized that I was eating all the Indian sweets. I was really enjoying the carb heavy Indian cuisine growing up, with very little conscious thought of what I was actually putting into my body, how the meal composition was. I really didn't understand proteins, carbs, and fats until a later age of around when I was probably going to university. Like that was the age when I was really conscious about the whole splitting of the plate between your proteins, carbs, fats, fibers, etc., micronutrients, and all that sort of stuff. But so the journey was like with anyone else's will be like, you start from absolutely having no idea what you're doing, and you gradually realize that, okay, there's some work to be done here. Mine was I couldn't do a push-up, and yeah, built on that day in and day out. So I did a lot of sport at school, and I was always swimming, and always staying physically active, but I wasn't ever really at like a peak physical condition. I would just turn up and train, and then go home and eat whatever whatever I fancied. But I'd say like now I've got a bit more of a strategy, and I've got a bit more of like I've got a bit more of a stronger, like what's the word? I'm more conscious about what I'm doing to like fuel my training, for instance. So I've been through a few big events, and I know that fueling for the endurance sports is super important. Eating and making sure the body's in the right sort of shape. So like lowering the body weight always helps, because you're trudging that along like miles and miles. But yeah, my main strategy now is remaining disciplined and like just sort of structured with my training. So I know when the week starts, I know which days I'm swimming, I know which days I'm doing my strength training, and I'll be able to actually tailor what I eat around that. So if I've got a big swim, I'll know that after the swim I'll be able to indulge in like a pizza, and that'll be fine. But then if I'm doing like a active rest day, or if I'm just doing like a lightweight session, I won't need to absolutely like fill the tank to the brim. So it's just about modifying and sort of like, yeah, modifying my own food schedule around my training.
What you've just said there is, for me anyway, great to hear. But also, hopefully, if anyone else is watching, the way around that you articulated it, because this is the thing that I think, and going back to your point a little while ago, you were saying about if somebody goes to the gym, they might go, brilliant, I've done what I needed to do, and then, feed themselves. In a way, what you've described is structuring your week using your training first, as in this is what I'm going to do and this is what I need to do to fuel it. Sounds the same, right? If you go to the gym and you say, right, I've just crushed a weight session, so now I can eat X, they'll be like, well, isn't that the same? But it isn't, not for me. And tell me whether you agree or disagree, but it sounds like having that base of structuring your activity and non-exercise activity first means you know what you need to fuel it. Also, from there, then, if you do decide to go, let's say there was a set number of calories, and we'll just pick a number. Say it was like 3,000 that was required to meet the needs, but you ate pizza that took you to 4,000. You know where you're at in relation to that. Whereas somebody who's just kind of doing it ad hoc doesn't know.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, again, it goes back to this thing around, really thinking quite deeply before you do any of this sort of stuff. Like, what is it you're trying to do? And then if you know that, then it makes it easier for you to know like what you should be eating, when you should be eating.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think like most of this, like really successful people I listen to on like whether it be like an interview they've done or whether it be like a social media post, they always talk about reverse engineering from your goals. So Ross Edgley's I love Ross Edgley. Like he's a great endurance athlete who's just actually broken the world record for the longest swim, 510 kilometers in the River Yukon. So always mentions, about thinking about your goal. So my new goal is swimming the English Channel, and then reverse engineering that to the present day, and then building out a proper strategy of what I'll need to do to get there. So like my current month, I'm swimming 13 kilometers a week, and it will go up and up and up until I actually swim it next year. But it's all about seeing your goal. Like, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to put muscle on? Do you want to go from borderline diabetes to non-diabetes risk? Do you want to bring your cholesterol down? Whatever your goal is, or do you have like a serious health condition like cancer or something like that that you really want to try and take, like you want to take the reins back on, and like you want to try and make every possible conscious effort to make your life as healthy as possible? Figure out what that goal is for you, and I appreciate it can be anything. Like, it doesn't have to be like swimming the English Channel. That's like that's my crazy one, but it doesn't have to be so extreme. It can be much more like literally every day. Like, whatever your goal is, think about that. Take a list of like 3 or 4 goals that you're going to need to do to accomplish that. Some of which will be your nutrition, because that's going to be fueling you to reach your goal, and become educated in the space. Like, I think Ross Edgley and these guys, like by watching them, I understand like what an endurance athlete needs to eat over a swim, or I understand what their sleep recoveries looks like, and I think it's very important to put yourself in the arena to see what someone who's done your goal is actually doing. You know, look up to people in the industry who are already doing what you want to do.
I love that. And you maybe even have answered the next question, because so what I find, and I understand this, is that when we're talking, I understand that it can be easy for somebody to say, well, it's all right for you. For example, like Prem, he's swimming the Channel. Alkesh, I've got a half marathon this Sunday, by the way. So by the time this goes out, well, he'll go out before that, actually. So yeah, fingers crossed it went well. But so it's easy for people with a sport base. So my question was going to be, and I don't know if some of what you said already applies to it, but what would be a tip then, or maybe 2 or 3, depends on, you know, how many you got, but a couple of things that you'd say, what about somebody who's aimless? You might have people that fit into that bracket, right? So they say, oh, well, I'm doing something, but I'm still overweight or living with obesity. Like, what are your things that you'd say, look, if you're going to do it, think about this and start with that?
Yeah, something that I'm super passionate about right now, which I would love someone who's overweight and they want to drop some pounds, I would love to encourage them to try. People will call it a fasting fad, but like, it's about reducing the number of hours you're eating through the day. So I have my first meal at 12 noon. There's multiple reasons why I do this. Number one, I've usually got more focus and more energy to engage with my important morning tasks when I do it fasted. It's typically it's a mental like trick that you need to eat as soon as you wake up, and like the idea of like having to wake up and like smash like 2 big carby pieces of bread and all these things which are going to like really fluctuate our blood sugar levels and make us feel like lethargic, slow, and just like not really like present and engaged, reduce. So my first tip is to try and reduce the number of hours you're eating. And then I'll move on to my second tip, which is to have fun with the process. There's so many alternative products you can buy this day, like skyr yogurt, frozen breakfast topper, great foods to keep your meals exciting, flavoursome, give you the natural sugars, but also just like keep them exciting, you know. But you'll eat these products, they'll have high protein in them, low saturated fats, and they'll make you feel good and energized throughout your day. And moving on to the third tip, what most people tell me who are at the position where I want to get to is all about the word consistency. So it's not a one night wonder where you sort of eat a low or a healthy diet one day and then see the results you want to see the next day. It is day in, day out graft, but the graft is worth it. I think in this generation and in this modern society, we get everything we want very quickly. Like there's always the instant gratification aspect of whether it be stuff online, whether it be substances, whether it be anything material, going and getting an expensive item or whatnot. But with the sport and with the nutrition, it isn't instant gratification in terms of like the overall result. But I would add the caveat that every day or every meal you eat that is healthy will give you the gratification that you are staying true to your commitment. So stay consistent. That's the biggest one.
Yeah, I love that. And feeding windows and things like that are probably things that we might come onto in future episodes. So that's an interesting one, because I'm definitely an advocate of not like a one size fits all. I think the trouble with the fitness industry sometimes can be where they guide you and say this is the way that you do it. And I think what's interesting from your perspective is it helped you with helping you with your particular situation, the things that you found difficult, your relationship with food. So it might be someone out there, it works for them, and it might be the thing that helps to really kickstart their time. I think you also mentioned things like making it exciting. Prem, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to and I've dealt with where, and I think there is a reason for this, and I don't want to offend any bodybuilders out there, but I've worked with bodybuilders before, and they're probably the worst for this, where they eat for function, right? So if you're talking about chicken breast, rice, and then broccoli, and then that's it, and then it gets lower and lower. So they're functional eaters. Now, a lot of diet plans, going back a little way, probably when you were too young to even know this, I'm old enough to remember this, that was almost all the diet plans people prescribed. And so sometimes it's controversial when somebody says, oh, well, buy yogurt or buy this or buy that. Because you're like, well, that doesn't sound like it fits in that. But what people maybe misunderstand is that you don't have to be miserable when you're, if you're trying to reduce body fat. Nobody said you had to be miserable and hate yourself for it. So there are plenty of ways, and I think you covered a few where you can make it exciting. And I can't agree more about the consistency. So love all that, Prem. So what's next for you then? What are your challenges? You kind of teased us with that. What is it you're up to?
Yeah. Well, my most immediate challenge is I'm going to go to the gym after this call, do a bit of Stairmaster and a full body workout, and then sit in the sauna steam. In the winter, in the winter months, there's nothing better than sitting in the sauna, on a cold. We're on it's called the winter arc. I'm seeing that all over social media. It's like getting like dialed in over the Christmas period with your fitness. But yeah, more generally, I'm training for the English Channel. I'm doing three swims a week right now. Two very long ones, and then just one short one. But all in prep for English Channel in August 2025 with Red Top Swim, and really excited. I'm part of a swim club for that. We train twice a week in East London, and it's wicked.
Fantastic. So now you've been on the channel, we're going to keep tabs on you, and we'll post some updates. It would be good to share your experiences, and maybe we'll link back up at some point in the future to see how you're getting on and tackle one of our other topics, no doubt.
Oh mate, I'll be more than happy to come and chat again, hopefully in person at some point. But yeah, it's nice. I hope at least one person's found some use out of this, and helps them to like genuinely will reach out to yourself and like find out how they can modify their own nutrition to optimize it for their life. And I just think of it like a car MOT. You got to be constantly like in tune with what fuel you're putting in your car. Or like even when you fill your petrol up at the station, you got to be putting the right petrol in, otherwise your car will literally break there and then. So I think it's time we make as our generation growing up, we make a conscious effort into the fuel we're putting into ourselves, because our bodies just won't last, quite literally.
Love it. People think I'm making this up, but we must be telepathic. It's because we're family. But that analogy I use all the time, and I know it's overdone, but it is amazing how many people don't think about it that simply. In terms of you could put theoretically any type of fuel into your car, but the simple fact is, if you don't look after the car and fuel it correctly, that's what's going to happen. So it's all right ragging your car if you're 20 years old and you're using and abusing your body. But when you get to my age, you're going to look back and think, I wish I'd have looked after it a bit better. So yeah, that's a great message to finish on. That's pretty much what we're talking about. Is I think, going back to the original point, if we're going to underline the fact is that if you are somebody that actually fits into that overweight and obese category, and you are, you're trying to get active, then I'd say help your body out by reducing that, body fat, if that's you and your condition, because the effect of the exercise, the overall effect to your health is going to be so much more, I think, in the long run, if you can marry up the two. So I'd say, combine the nutrition with the activity, and you're on a good one.
That's it. And it's never too late to start. So just put one foot in front of the other, and slowly momentum will pick up, and the consistency will make all your ideas come to reality.
Love it. Good stuff. Short and sharp as always. Prem, it was a
Lovely.
pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take care.